Greetings, this is Greg. I want to talk about the 2024 Ford Mustang. The one sitting behind me is an Ecoboost Mustang, meaning it's powered by a turbo 4-cylinder. And this particular one, which belongs to Eurocompulsion, it's the business car here, has the performance package, which is an excellent option if you're interested in performance. It gives you significantly upgraded suspension and just top quality brakes. Brembos on all four corners. They're all fixed position calipers and 6-piston calipers up front, 4 in the rear with gigantic vented rotors. It's really a good package. I suspect, I don't know yet because we haven't done it, but I suspect that around a racetrack this car will be right there with a standard V8 powered Mustang. And the sticker price on this thing is over $10,000 less than a comparably equipped V8 car. So it's a good deal. It also gets better fuel economy. It's much less expensive to insure. I really think that for most people that are interested in the Ford Mustang, this is the way to equip such a car. I'm not going to spend a lot of time like other reviewers do telling you what the car looks like. I think you guys are mature enough to recognize that for yourself. The only appearance abnormality, let's call it, are these wheels. I'm not even sure. Can you see these on camera, D? Yeah, all right. So are these wheels, which are part of the performance package, and there are some other little things that change appearance, but not too much. What I want to talk about is the way the car monitors the driver, or potentially, I guess, anybody in the car. And I think this is pretty interesting. And I don't want to come across sounding like I'm bashing the Mustang or bashing Ford. All the new cars are kind of set up this same way. And in fact, just to be clear that I'm not bashing it, every single person that works at Eurocompulsion has driven this car, and they all say it's much better than the previous generation, and they all love it. It has great performance, it's comfortable, it's economical, the sound system's great. There are just no complaints as far as the operation of the car goes. But what I want to talk about is what I'm going to call the surveillance aspect of the car. And I wrote down a few notes here on a cheat sheet so I wouldn't get the details wrong. The owner's manual for this car has over 550 pages. I seriously doubt most people read that. It mentions the word data over 230 times. And there are several types of data that it monitors, collects, stores, sends to Ford in some cases. And these types of data are, I'm reading from my list, service data, event data, settings data, entertainment data, mobile device data, we're coming back to that one, and emergency call data. Now, the only one of these that it specifically states in the manual, at least as far as I found, remember 551 pages, I could be missing stuff here, so I should say this is all my opinion. But the only one of those that it mentions specifically in the manual that is only going to be triggered in the event of an accident is event data. It's looking at a lot of this other stuff all the time. And again, it can report this stuff back to Ford. I'll give you a brief story here. Recently, about a week ago, we'd had the car for maybe a month at the point. My son called me up and said, "Dad, the car won't go over 80 miles an hour." And I thought, well, that's interesting. It's a brand new car. It's totally unmodified. It's nothing we did. It has to be a speed limiter of some sort. And he said, well, we've gone over 80 miles an hour before. Specifically, we've done it on the Dyno a number of times. So I started going through the owner's manual and the settings on the car, and here's what I learned. The car has a speed limiter setting, which apparently was set either by the manufacturer or by the dealer to 80 miles an hour, and that's why my son couldn't go over 80. Now, again, we had gone over 80 on the Dyno, and I assume that somebody, considering all the people that have driven it so far, someone's gone over 80 on it, because we have a speed limit on a turnpike between Tulsa and Muskogee that we use pretty frequently that is 80 miles an hour, so presumably somebody's exceeded that speed at some time. Well, it turns out that the speed limiter that the car has will recognize, thankfully, if you're really trying to go faster. For example, if you're passing a semi-truck on a 2-lane highway, if a speed limiter kicks in at a certain point, that could result in a tragedy. So it recognizes the way you're driving. For example, if you have your foot on the floor, it knows not to kick in that speed limiter. It's designed to prevent you from creeping over it. It also will not prevent you from exceeding the speed due to a downhill grade, because the speed limiter does not apply the brakes. So that's an interesting qualification. But the speed limiter does other things, and so now we're getting into this kind of surveillance state aspect of this. The speed limiter can be set so that the car won't exceed any posted speed limit within these same conditions I talked about a moment ago. it knows the speed limit of the road you're on. It does this two ways. The car has a database, and it just knows what the speed limit is. The database could be out of date, although it does update, but in theory it could be out of date and maybe it wouldn't know. And this comes into play when you're dealing with things like road construction or speed limits that are temporary or related to time, like a school zone might be one speed certain times of the year at certain hours of the day and a different speed at other times. Well, the car knows that too, because it has a camera that reads the speed limit sign. So if the speed limit is normally 65 but it's 35 right now, the car knows that the speed limit dropped, and it knows how fast you're going, and it stores this data. And it says in no uncertain terms, well, I say no uncertain, you can read the owner's manual for yourself. The way I read it is it says in no uncertain terms that Ford will provide that data when it's requested by law enforcement. So in theory, they could fine you for speeding because your car reports you. And it's not just speeding, it records everything about you. When you wore your seatbelts, rates of acceleration, how hard you're cornering, just everything. The car can potentially sell you out. I'm not saying that's happening right now. In fact, as far as I know, it's not. The other type of data that they collect that I want to talk about is data from your cell phone, your personal data. And again, this is extremely clear in the manual. Go in there and read it for yourself. This is not, Greg's theory about what the car does. It says in the manual very specifically that they track and read your phone calls and text messages. Ford knows who you called, when you called. The car shares your entire cell phone contact list. This is assuming that your phone has been connected to the car at some point. It shares your entire cell phone contact list, which seems strange to me. As an example, I have a grandson who's a teenager, and he's in my contact list on my cell phone. So if I connect my phone to this car, Ford has my grandson's phone number. He didn't agree to that, and he's a minor. I don't understand how this can be legal. Even though I understand that by buying the car, I agree to all these terms and everything. But there are other people involved here that didn't agree to this. So I find this very strange. Not doubting it's somehow legal, just saying I don't think it's right. They also can read your text messages. They also know if you haven't read one of your text messages. Not only can they read the text messages you've read, they can read the text messages you've received that you haven't read. This seems to me to be an incredible invasion of privacy, but it's all right there in the owner's manual. So all of your cell phone data is shared. And by the way, it also states very specifically that even if your phone isn't connected to the car, they can still tell who you called and when, and I think where you are at the time you do it. I'm assuming that only works if you have connected your cell phone to the car at some point. Not sure about that. So the level of surveillance, I don't know what else to call it, that this car has is just tremendous. It also monitors your driving behavior, and if it recognizes you getting tired, and it does this by looking at the lines on the road, and if it sees that you're not holding the center of the lane or you're drifting a little bit more than normal, it decides that you must be tired and sets off an alarm. I haven't seen this alarm go off, but according to the owner's manual, again the way I'm reading it in the current version of the owner's manual, maybe changed by the time you see this. The current version of the owner's manual states that if that alarm goes off, the only way to shut it off is to pull the car over, come to a stop, shut off the car, and restart it. So that's a pretty invasive alarm. If the song comes on the radio you like and you're swaying to the music a little bit and not holding a perfectly straight line like maybe you normally do, the car will recognize that and think you're getting tired. So there are a lot of things that it monitors. And, I should say, if there's snow on the windshield or something blocking the windshield, the camera and sensors for a lot of this stuff are facing forward, obviously, behind the upper center of the windshield, kind of near the rearview mirror. And so if there's snow on there, or there could be other obstructions, and some of this functionality would be lost. I'm really stunned that the car monitors and stores this much information, and that people are okay with it. I guess, it's kind of, I own this car. That doesn't mean I'm okay with it. I bought the car, and here we are. And I got to say, I haven't heard of any case of this ability being abused, but I think it will be in time. It's a question of getting people used to this and getting enough of these cars out there in the public before they start flipping the switch, so to speak, and calling you up and saying, hey, Josiah, we noticed you didn't have your seatbelt on when you went through Okmulgee, and it's required there. We're reporting that to law enforcement, and you get a ticket in the mail from the Okmulgee Police Department. That's an extremely convenient source of revenue for municipalities. And I should also say that it's not just municipalities. I don't want to read this incorrectly, so let me quote from the manual. They may also provide this information to, quote, third parties with lawful authority, unquote. Well, I don't know who a third party with lawful authority would be, but I suspect that means whoever Ford wants it to mean. I think that's vague enough that it can be interpreted that way. And in any case, in the manual, it clearly states that all of this is subject to change at any time. Ford could just change it to whatever definition they want. There's also a ton of other stuff in the owner's manual regarding these user agreements. The one for the navigation system in there, that's not made by Ford, it's made by somebody else. That's pages and pages long. And all it says is essentially you have no rights, you have no right to sue us, you have no rights, and by the way, the navigation system says that they don't promise anything. And the navigation system people also say that you're responsible for checking their website for changes to their service agreement on a regular basis. Of course, nobody's going to do that. Nobody's even reading the owner's manual, let alone going to the providers of software that Ford has hired. And nobody knows who those people are, and nobody's going to their website. So I think the surveillance state has gotten a bit out of hand. I'm a bit worried about it. I'm not going to ramble on any longer. I just felt like making this video. Thanks a lot for watching. Goodbye, and have a great day. I guess that's not it. Just one more thing. So I am going to ramble on for another minute, it turns out. The reason this car is at an angle is because the rear wheels are on ramps. I don't know if you could see that in the video. And the reason the rear wheels are on ramps is because we're doing, at Eurocompulsion, we're doing a lot of development on this car, trying to increase its performance. One interesting thing that I should mention is that you can't lower this car, or if you do lower the car, it throws off that lane monitoring thing that's designed to tell if the driver is getting tired or not. Now, I don't know in what way it will affect that, but the owner's manual is very specific about that. Maybe it makes the warning go off all the time, maybe it makes it never go off, or maybe it makes it unreliable. We don't know yet. In any case, we're going through the car mechanically, we're going through the software, and we're learning a tremendous amount about this car at Eurocompulsion. So if you go to that website, in fact, if you go to the Eurocompulsion channel here on YouTube, you can see this very car on the dyno and see the start of our work here. Okay, that's it. I'm really done. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.